Do what thou will be the whole piece of law.
Today I bring you a special topic, parroting puppets. One that I actually have a personal vested interest and connection to. Well, along with Francis, that is. As, if you'll permit me, I'd like to tell you a bit of a story. They were both introduced to me directly by my uncle, who shall remain unnamed. Just know him as my uncle, as I'm probably only going to mention him when I mention my uncle. But to give you a sense of his character, I'd like to give you some defining events that may give you some insight. He said fuck at my grandfather's funeral, a la John Cleese, even though he did it first. Whenever you will activate any voice-activated search function or household aid, he'll scream, MC Wizard Penis, whenever you activate it to try and get it into the search. And he claims that when he started doing this, it had no results, and now it does, which it does if you Google it. And most of his definitions of fun involve doing one of the most accurate Indian impressions ever done by a white person that I've ever seen, ranting about whatever conspiracy fuel he found that day, or trying to put a comedic twist on his own grief. He also gifted me the book for my high school graduation. Now, the reason why he's important is because he actually had direct contact with the entity we will be talking about today. And because in my description it says, it takes nothing to believe everything, so I do, I'm just going to take whatever he told me at face value, and they'll be sprinkled in as we go along. And I make these videos because I love what my uncle started me on. I love the kooks, cranks, and wackos phase of the late 80s and early 90s, even though I wasn't even a glint in the postman's eye yet. And that's why I started, because I think they're an untapped gold mine of humor and ways to freak out your checkout clerk at the grocery store. Because if you think I am simply contained to this channel, no. If you know me in real life, I bring these to real life, and the reason why I like conveying them so is because it feels like I'm in the room telling this to you very frantically as you get more and more uncomfortable, or begin to laugh at the ridiculousness of it all. But this one's great for that. Almost as good as Francis. I want to talk today about a woman, or an entity if you believe her interview, named Norma COX, aka Norma Dorothy Cox, spelled COX, not anything else. My uncle used to pay to call her, and even one time sent her $20 only to get a manila envelope back with some Kinko's garbage in it. And he would always start the story with one thing. He'd say, I'd pay the little fee to call the number, I'd pick up the phone, and I would hear, hello, Dorothy speaking, and he'd go, yeah, I'm looking to speak to Norma COX, and she'd say, yeah, this is Norma. And he'd always joke that she loved to have two names, but apparently she always preferred to go by her middle name rather than her first name. I only found this out later, but it was funny at the time. And it would not be the only enigmatic thing about her, as doing more research on her, it is like peering into this eldritch geometrical puzzle that merely gets more complicated every time you start moving the parts around. Because first, she's allegedly still alive if you believe her Find a Grave or her public records. However, doing some deeper diving, I found out the only person to ever match her description on any of the sites I searched, mainly the only one that I could find her on being the white pages that has her name, her initials, where she lived relatively accurately, and it stated that she was as active as late as allegedly 2020, and quite possibly may still be alive today if you believe the white pages, although that would make her older than the oldest living person in the United States, so I assume she found what she was looking for or simply faded away or something of the sort. However, she's most likely dead. Wow, a person who left behind a trove of schizophrenic literature that details their beliefs that was distributed possibly after a schizophrenic episode / traumatic event that altered her thinking. Where have I heard that one before? Lastly, I discovered that massive archive of all of her writings only at the end of my research cycle, because I had done all of my research into these three documents that we will be covering today, the three being In the Love of Allah, Christianity and the Sun God, and Illuminism in the Ozarks, which have PDFs online on a website that I've been following ever since it was last updated in 2006, my favorite. But I discovered that, much like Francis, the one that is upkept by the lovely PSHIAKTHX, the Norma COX archive is upkept by a person called Heirs to the Kingdom. Check your P.O. box, Heirs to the Kingdom. But also, it turns out Heirs to the Kingdom does not only keep Norma COX's writings, they keep a bunch of other conspiracy theory writings that I may cover later. I will also dive into this archive if this video gets enough attention, but that's that's besides the point. But it was very upsetting that I found this at the tail end of my research cycle because I couldn't include this in the script without massive feature creep and delaying the video by another 2 weeks. So that's why I think it would be better to be a series. But I think this is the core of what she believes. We can get to the nice fringe fleshy bits later. This is going to be the skeleton and the muscle. But if you do want that whole series, don't hesitate to ask. She's got that nice old nostalgic 80s charm in her book names, especially Journey to the Center of the Earth, and then I can brag that I actually read. So today, as I stated before, I'm going to cover her 3 pamphlets from her extensive collection, and I'll give you some personal details to start out. So all of the personal information that we have about Norma Dorothy Cox, who I will just proceed to call Norma Cox for the rest of this video, is an interview in 1991 after she got her ads pulled from her favorite magazine. She runs a company called Secrets, which is how she distributed her books, which were very cheap back in the day, and you could get all of them for about $50 in today's money. But at the time of this interview, she was 83 years old. From what my uncle says, she was always wanting for money, as whenever he would call, he would get various answers about why she was in need of it. But she was also married at one point, not at the time of this interview, but before that, to one Jesse Earl Cox for about 40 years until he died in a car accident, which Norma did not get out of this unscathed, as when a school bus collided with the driver's side of their car, it obliterated her husband nearly instantly and liquefied both of her legs, her doctor saying that it was worse than anything he'd seen in Vietnam. She also makes note specifically of the date, July 2nd, 1976. 7 plus 6 equals 13, and July 2nd is the date which the Declaration of Independence was truly delivered. Now, if this is turning you off, leave. It does not get better from here. If you do not believe in sacred geometry or the significance of numbers, you are not welcome here. But in 1972, before this, she moved to Morningstar, Arkansas, which she will mention later, but it's important to tell you now, and she lived in a mobile home, which is where she presumably found the gateway to the Hollow Earth, as nobody's seen her since. Or she just died somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and no one bothered to fill out her gravestone, which might be a little worse. But I'm going to tell you these in the order I read them. So I'm going to start with For the Love of Allah. She begins to front load everything to begin with, and you might be able to get a general idea of what her pamphlets are going to be about just from the notes that I posted earlier. Allah is Zeus, or Ahura Mazda from the Persian faith, and Jesus is Mithras or Amun-Ra from the Egyptian faith. She will also claim that anytime humans have seen divine light or divine inspiration, aside from the Christian God, is really gods descending to Earth in spaceships, as religion is specifically designed to control humanity and shroud true information from the people, as well as beginning to claim that Islam is so potent because people in the Middle East are easily deceived by religion than any other race of people. Norma Cox claims that when white people finally see through their own deception, aka these religions that they've created for people, they will finally be able to bring about a liberation, and that liberation looks a lot different, and she begins to get into that in some other places, but you just need to keep this in mind because this is going to be important later. She also takes the classic approach of blaming a certain group of people, which she will call Canaanites, as she likes to bring this back to religious times, as she is a very biblical person. A lot of her reasoning will be biblically based, but don't expect me to go too deep into it. The best way to sum it up is I feel she's reaching and taking a lot of things out of context, which, wow, great surprise. You can support anything if you take it out of context and put it into a specific context that would support your argument. But anyway, the Canaanites would become the modern-day Jewish people, which is how I will refer to them, because I feel just saying, you know, the Alex Jones clip, Jew, I feel like that is just the wrong way to go about this, and it needs some subtlety, so I'm just going to call them Canaanites for the rest of this video. The Israelites would become to be the true Aryans. Now, I don't know if she's talking about the Hindu Aryans, or she's talking about the Germanic concept of an Aryan, but I'm inclined to believe it's the Germanic concept, as to some things we will see later, but I don't want to rush myself. And in ideal fashion, she believes that the Canaanites want to bring about an Armageddon and are descendants of Satan. This is very important, because she will make a distinction between Lucifer and Satan later. She also will go on to say that Satan is an alien who lives in the Hollow Earth beneath the Middle East, which is why the Middle East is so tormented all the time. It's because Satan's evil is leaking out of the Hollow Earth, and he has direct control over these groups, using Islam to control them. She's also incredibly based, if you're from the left side of the aisle, as she has quotes like, oh, the Canaanites should get out of Palestine, or quotes such as, it is incredible to any promulgator of religion, whether Christian, Islamic, or Buddhist, to name the more prominent, can fail to observe that Canaanites are not what they say they are, and that by allowing Canaanites to have its way with them, they are calling the shots not only in the matter of death to billions of innocent people, but for their own miserable selves as well. Still, it should be remembered that religion, and not only the Christian, is not what it pretends to be. Now, going back to the difference between Canaanites and Israelites, you may wonder why that distinction is. Well, she actually has a concrete reason, as if you go back into history, Canaanites are a polytheistic city-state type federation of city-states, carrying on the old each city-state has a god type of deal. But the Israelites are bringing what we would consider Western values, bringing a monotheistic monarchy in an era where that was just not the style. She also makes the classic claim that Canaanites have sold out the United States to the Federal Reserve, which, wow, how original. Mainly as income tax was passed in 1913, unlucky 13, and the fact that World War I occurred on an inopportune date as well. She also makes some interesting connections to Islam and Mormonism, saying that both of them have embedded references to the sun god, which will be a big running theme that you want to pay attention to, as these similarities include both love the Book of Revelations, both reference gold, Islam saying that God will descend in wreathed in golden rays, and Mormonism having Joseph Smith discover some golden plates, and God is referenced in both religions to be the Lord of Light, thus Amun-Ra, thus the sun god. Now, this is also important to state. When she says the sun god, she is not talking about a god in the traditional sense. She is talking about what she will call a super being. Now, these super beings are effectively aliens that have come down and live within the Hollow Earth because they found the secret passage all the way down. Now, these super beings are the ones proliferating and making sure that these religions stay in place to serve their whims, as anything that is against the whims of the super beings is disincentivized. Not exactly crushed, but not exactly allowed to flourish either. It's small. It's kept suppressed. This applies to Satan as well, whose dwelling is in the underground as previously established. And Zeus and Mithras, Zeus being the god of the sky, and Apollo, Mithras, or the sun god, are constantly at war with each other, using Islam, Zeus, the sky god, and Mormonism, Apollo, Mithras, the sun god, to wage their wars against each other, using surface dwellers who don't know better as the blood and gore to fight their wars. The purpose of this warfare is not just petty scuffles, and it's to eventually bring down a civilization turned rotten and sour and to kill off the unwieldy, overproductive, crime-ridden population. That's her words. And once disposed of and the slate is wiped clean, a new civilization will arise to replace the old, as, like the Phoenix, coming back better than before, accomplishing great feats of science and industry. And then expanding this, says Amun-Ra, Apollo, Bel-Merodeth, Mithras, whoever, sun god, I'm just gonna keep saying sun god because she uses a bunch of different religious references, but they all mean the same thing, has been the head of the Catholic Church. She does not completely disregard Christianity, in case you're wondering, she just has her own interpretation of the Christian God. The Christian God is the only true God. The other gods, sun god, sky god, moon god, if you hear me reference any of those, are super beings that live in the Hollow Earth, that are aliens to the planet. They came down onto this certain biblically significant mountain in a spacecraft and a UFO, because this is the time of the UFOs, and took refuge in the Hollow Earth to pull the strings on the surface to eventually bring about their new civilization. Now, another thing that makes Norma COX amazing is that she actually cites sources, but in a way that does not allow you to fact check her sources. As she says, oh yes, I have this very old 1907 reference book, and I'm not a crazy person, because only by diving deep into the secrets of religion can any great society continue. And whenever she cites her books, it's not, oh yes, I used this title of this book written in this year, here's where you can find it. It's just, according to my old 1907, or according to my 1913 reference book. So it's very helpful, and I couldn't find a source for that. She also points out more sun god imagery in Islamic architecture, as she points to the gates of Mecca at Jeddah, using imagery of the sun god. You can see the little golden rays. Remember amber, gold, Apollo, sun god. That's gonna be the mantra. She also claims that the Quran does not have a divine basis, or if it is divine, it's not as divine as you'd like to think, as it was not written by Muhammad alone, according to her reference book. She says, quote, "The tradition has it that Muhammad was assisted in drawing up the Quran by a Persian Jew and a Nestorian monk. She takes aim at the Nestorian part first, saying that Mary was responsible for the creation of Jesus the man and not the divine aspect. Zeus, the sky god, super being, was actually responsible for the divine aspect when he consummated the relationship with Mary, thus linking this to the Nestorian idea of worshipping the sun god Jesus and the moon god Mary." And she also implicates this Persian Jew who would try and self-insert as a chosen people to try and achieve Zionist goals further down the line. And she also accuses Muhammad in integrating pagan aspects to integrate pagans into a more widely accessible religion that could be used to bring about more people and keep this unending war for the Phoenix at the end to keep going on. Which, in case you feel unfairly targeted, she's going to have an entire other book railing on Mormons that we will get to directly after this. So I apologize if it feels a little targeted, that's just the theming of this book. She even goes even deeper with her condemnations, saying, quote, "If there is one thing that I am now certain of, it is that Islam was and is the work of intriguers, of sorcerers, and astrologers, possessors of the secrets of the earth and the solar system, secrets orally imparted down through the millennia, the centuries, secrets known only to those few who are able to make contact with the gods, both within the earth and the universe." Now, she also claims that Arabs as a race of people are Semitic, which is true in some interpretations. However, what is a little less back-upable is that the Canaanites set them up to receive Islam, which then turned them fanatical. She also throws in Hinduism, saying that the Hindu religion has also been contaminated by the sun god deception, as well as Aurora Borealis being the light of the inner sun of the planet. The earth is hollow, but it has a sun inside of it to illuminate the hollow earth inside, which keeps these super beings alive. Aurora Borealis is just the leaking out of this light through the northern hemisphere. This is also why the super beings are allowed to exist within the planet. They draw energy from the internal star inside of the Earth, and all of the stars you see in the night sky are not planets. They are also stars, as every planet has a star inside of it which has its own super being, or allows super beings to live within it. Also, every planet is hollow, it's not restricted to just Earth. She also says quite oddly, and as a surprise to me and basically everyone I tell this to, that Zoroastrianism is one of the only pure religions left, as when you have these religions, they usually try and have one monotheistic god, which Norma believes is not true. There are multiple gods that represent other things. Zoroastrianism is just the one that's being honest. It has a pure good, a pure evil, and then a mediator in between the pure good and evil, which the sun god, pure good, the moon god, pure evil, and then the true god, the one that is actually a god and not a super being, capital G god, is the mediator in the middle. However, she doesn't describe herself as a Zoroastrian, but I would believe that she's a Zoroastrian if you were to tell me that. Oh, did I get you with that one? Okay, cool. Now that I can pull the wool on over your eyes, I actually just lied to you. She says that Zoroastrianism is the most accurate to how the world actually is. Not that it's pure. There is one true God, but it is a one true God unchained by Christianity, as she points her finger at Christianity, claiming that it is the most evil as it chains down the most successful people, while Islam and all the other religions, Hinduism, Judaism, all those other ones, are for lesser peoples to keep them occupied, which is why they're so fanatical. The reason why you have these middling Christians who are still somewhat halfway about Christianity is because Norma COX believes that a white person cannot be truly deceived by religion. She believes that they can be deceived by a lot of other things, but she also believes that one day they will be liberated from this oppression, which, if you're crafting this narrative, sure, you gotta have that nice, oh, we're gonna make it at the end, otherwise it's just all doom and gloom. Like, you ever take an environmentalist course nowadays? You ever take an environmental science course and they're all like, the world's gonna end, you'll be baked alive, there is no exit from the eternal hell spiral. That's just what it would be otherwise. And she also claims in this larger vein of, oh, these are the lesser religions that are like somewhat fine because you have to keep these people in line, but Christianity's the most evil. She then goes to tie them all together by saying Osiris and Amun-Ra, Osiris being the moon, Amun-Ra being the sun, Ormuzd and Mithras from Zoroaster, Ormuzd being the moon, Mithras being the sun, Hinduism's Brahma and Vishnu, Brahma being the moon, Vishnu being the sun, says they're all identical. They are just different skins of the same thing. She also lays the birth of the Canaanites as a people on the feet of Esau, as, if you don't know and you haven't played The Binding of Isaac, which I don't blame you, but it's a great game, if you've ever tried to play Corrupted Jacob and Esau, I know you'd quit, because I did. I'm so close to finishing that game, it's Jacob and Esau. Anyway, Jacob was the loved twin and Esau was the horrible twin. And Esau, of course, being obstinate, cruel, disobedient, basically all of the bad words that you can put into a biblical figure, took a bunch of wives, polygamy good, which is why she'll take umbrage with the Mormons. But with this, she's like, oh, all of this evil will be congealed into one race of people, the Canaanites. She also continues on this area of claiming that all of these religions are the same by then saying it doesn't matter what religion you pray to, it's more just a prayer out into the open so that the super beings underneath the planet know that you are still obedient and to not be smited on the spot. You're constantly being graded. And when all these religions are the same, she then puts effectively the final nail in the coffin by saying, quote, a false religion cannot survive its corruption, and when it becomes so rotten that it loses its usefulness to those who forged it, a dynamic new prophet is found, one who can bring a new religion to replace the old, manipulated by evil men, wicked priests. The same old erratic gods and goddesses are put on the same old pedestals. All that has changed is the names and locations. She also then goes on to say, well, what about the atheists, right? Atheists seem immune from all of this deception, but that is not true. All these lodges, like the Freemasons, secret orders, secret societies, banks, occult knowledge, and mysticism are prisons for all of the good men of the world, ensuring those who are ambitious enough to change it are shackled to the trappings of mysticism with no real promises of power at the bottom. They prey on the susceptible for the sake of money. They conjure up spirits, a sure sign that they are in league with the devil themselves. Their dreams and other means of divination are false, and yet strangely they are fulfilling the revelations. A quote from her, not me. And she will go to say one of the most important things, that Lucifer and Satan, something that we may view as interchangeable, are not interchangeable to her. Lucifer is not Satan. Satan is a super being that lives below the earth who came down from another planet. Lucifer, the son of the sun, two sons, is actually something different. She will elaborate on Lucifer in later writings. And something that my uncle greatly embellished, but Norma actually kind of has, she believes that the German dictator, Adolf, will come out of the hollow earth where he's been residing ever since the Great War with an army of UFOs and save the Aryan race from its deception. And the only backing she has to this is someone would not be as vilified as him if not for the way the media constantly rails against him even 50 years later, basically taking the stance of, well, the more they try and stop me, the more they reveal that I'm on the right path. Basically stating World War II was just another war, and any other leader during the war committed just as bad of an atrocity, which if you're going by just death amounts, is probably on par with Joseph Stalin and a lot of the other communist dictators. But still, World War II was just awful for everyone all around. I mean, look at the casualty figures and feel who could have been alive today. Oh, my poor weepy soul. Oh, you're killing the next Einstein when you go to war. When I read that, my uncle's version was, okay, the Jews control the black people, which control the white man, which are controlled by aliens. And then Hitler will come out of the hollow earth being 150 years old with his saucer army and destroy the limiters of the white man to create this phoenix-like civilization. And that is the time when everyone starts staring at you in the grocery store. And it's great because he'll do this anywhere. You start him on something, it's great. I was so happy to read that. I was like, he wasn't lying to me all these years. years. It was a little more muted, but I like his embellished version a little more. That's something that you can throw out in the wild and people will just kind of look at you like you're insane, and maybe I am, but who knows. She actually does something that I wish more kooks would do. She says, yes, the Illuminati Zionist conspiracy. There was no need to mention, since I will never write about it, nor will I ever write about the Bilderbergers, the Trilariats, or the Rockefellers. Bait stuff for the suckers. Basically saying, hey guys, why are you writing about this stupid stuff when you could be writing about stuff that actually matters, right? The saucer people, the aliens inside of the earth controlling people with religion and playing different gods is the real stuff you need to be worried about. Why are you guys talking about the random Rockefellers, Illuminati, Bilderberger nonsense? Even though she will immediately begin to contradict this as she goes into her next pamphlet, which is Christianity and the Sun God, which is going to be a little shorter, as it's mainly just a history of Mormonism, and I don't want to bore you with that. Frankly, you can go find some Mormon history somewhere else and come back here, because I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. If I had to recommend a video, I'd go watch the Knowing Better video if you have the time. It's an amazing video. Go watch it. Maybe one day I can make a video that rivals his Christian Science video, as I have a direct source. But anyway, Christianity and the Sun God begins with talking about how politicians and loan sharks have control over your body while religion cages your soul. A little bit of an elaboration on the religions of prison. Your souls are controlled by aliens and your physical body is controlled by politicians and money. And religion is not to save your soul, but to rather cage it within tithes, money, and all of these extra favors that you can get for free. She also says that religions are building their empires off the backs of the people who can afford it, aka the Aryans or the white. I don't know how to refer to these things. I mean, what? Do you just want me to say Aryans? Is Aryans better? I mean, I'm looking around for someone to help me. Do I... doesn't make me uncomfortable, I just don't want to get banned, right? Whenever I discuss these things, it makes me feel like I can feel the cold steel against the back of my head. Like some computer god agent is gonna come and exterminate me through the back of my skull, you know? But anyway, media empires are built off the backs of Aryans, and these people who build these media empires, being these TV religious scammers, are there to conceal the true nature of Christian, but not Christian, capital G, God, and these people will lead millions astray from biblical truths, which is presumably the truth that Norma COX is talking about, for all of these other monetary and sometimes physical rewards. She also then goes on to say that Catholics, being fake Christians, are secretly pagan, and her real only contestant to the Protestants is that they bicker over small differences too much, and they're differences that ultimately don't matter. You know the joke of the Baptist on the bridge? And after making all of these really small distinctions, the guy throws him off the bridge, you know that joke? It's that. She's saying that if Protestants could simply unite, they could get this whole Phoenix thing on a track faster. She then goes to elaborate on this religion is a prison and people are scamming you, to then elaborate on Mormonism being the largest con known to history, and the Archangel Moroni. In case you don't know, SparkNotes version, the Archangel Moroni came down to a man named Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith then was given this set of golden plates, which he then translated by looking into a hat. People have witnessed this, allegedly, but I'm not gonna go into that. The only thing you need to know is Moroni is actually the big archangel that gave Joseph Smith the golden plates and took him back when he expired on his rental payments. But Moroni was actually Amun-Ra deceiving Joseph Smith, and then goes on to say Joseph Smith and his farming lifestyle was a big fat lie and he was rather a treasure hunter, saying specifically that he would shun the farming lifestyle and his family as a whole was very lazy. After his death, Brigham Young would bring about the 1852 law of celestial marriage, which is, in common terms, legalizing polygamy, which Joseph Smith never wanted, and Joseph Smith's wife and child declared the revelation a forgery. This is an elaboration on the physical and monetary rewards for one of the largest cons in human history. She then goes on to chastise Brigham Young even more, saying he left a vast fortune of over $1 million in 1800s money, 56 children, and 15 to 18 wives. And going even more into it, she says even if you don't respect Christianity, you have to admit that it still produced these great people. Mormonism has not done that. The Bible fosters debate about its true nature, and Mormons just mindlessly believe whatever Joseph Smith or whatever prophet they put in his place actually believes, rather than finding it out for themselves, which makes me think she's more of a Protestant. And by having a living prophet saying that you can call on God at any time equalizes the importance of God and man, whereas Norma COX will go on to contest that capital G God, the one that's not an alien, but the one that's actually a real God, is above all of that and could not possibly be on call at any given time. And whatever Joseph Smith's reasons, he achieved his stated goals, in Norma COX's eyes, to get millions of dollars and millions of mindless zealots to do his bidding. And the secrets that he achieved and obtained in his time as a prophet was only revealed to cult leadership, and he has conned millions of innocent people for these secrets. Now, what are these secrets? Now, she begins to start this out easily. If you look to Salt Lake City, Utah, at least in Norma's time, everything was made of stone. Everything had a trail of running water, and it has architecture of art suspended over openings of the earth. Now, there's symbolism, but we're going to get to that in a second. She also talks about the connection to Egyptian hieroglyphs and the moon goddess. She also then says that Mormon can be interpreted as Marman, which she just takes out of nowhere. She's like, hey, what if we just swap the O to an A to get Marman, aka Man of War, aka Man of Mars, aka Sun God, aka Amun-Ra. Are you getting it? It all connects back to the Sun God. They're being deceived by aliens, right? Religion is just a giant deception based on aliens that live inside the hollow earth, right? Are you not getting it? Is this something? Are you scared? She also points out the Mountain Meadows massacre. She doesn't view it as a religious conflict, but rather an ethnic conflict, pulling out the word Goyim before it would ever hit the word popular culture. But she says that Mormonism had deceived these pure white Aryans into seeing that these other pure white Aryans were nothing more than Goyim and deserved to die. So Mountain Meadows has never actually been acknowledged by the Mormon Church. I don't really want to get into it. It seems like one of those things where everyone involved was just some level of misinformed because it's the 1800s and no one knows how to communicate yet. But she also points out that all the founding Mormons were Freemasons, and many rites of the Mormon Church are copied from Masonry, which is still why to this day Mormons are encouraged to not be Freemasons. It's not a cause to get kicked out of the religion, it just might show you that they're not as original as they thought. She also points out an alleged quote from Brigham Young that says, "It is better to spill a man's blood rather than let him leave the kingdom of heaven and be lost for eternity." Hey, you may lose your mortal body, but you still got into heaven, right? Kind of a justification as to why they had to kill all those people. She also talks about a secret excavation done in Devil's Tombstone, New York, where thieves stole a golden plate from a scientific excavation that may have been the basis of Joseph Smith's Book of Mormon, but I could not find a single thing on it, so take that with a grain of salt. She also contests a little-known thing, that Joseph Smith said that Native Americans, American Indians, depending on how you want to refer to the native population of America, cannot be one of the lost tribes of Israel, which Joseph Smith claims, because she said if they were, they would be rolling in money and controlling everything, which I don't know if she knew about Native American casinos. I don't know if that counts for Norma COX's belief system, but that's like the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, if I can prove I'm one half Onondaga, I can get $80,000 for the rest of my God-given lifespan, but I'm not. So also, Agartha might be lost forever, except for the fact that Joseph Smith named the city of Independence, Missouri, Zion, because he knew where it was underneath the surface. For some reason, this also produced Harry Truman, which she talks about the atom bomb in another piece of writing, and she also says that Joseph Smith knew about the Civil War and how all of the lost tribes of Israel had gone into the Hollow Earth. She also accuses the Mormons of buying land near spots that attract UFOs and are prime recruits for the CIA, which is also true. I'd say it's because they try and live the cleanest life possible, saying like, hey, you can't even have caffeine, which if you've watched Utopia, caffeine was invented by the CIA to be more susceptible under torture, right? So they can't even be conned with caffeine. They don't need their morning coffee, they just go. And elaborating on this then says that Mormons are either a puppet organization of the CIA or the CIA is a puppet organization of the Mormons. I mean, whichever your little heart desires. I couldn't really find one. And going back to the UFO attraction, she says that there's actually a system of ley lines. Now, for the uninitiated, if you're new to conspiracy speak, ley lines are special fonts of energy below the surface of the earth. They have the ability to provide great energy or prosperity or whatever to those who put buildings or certain channelers on top of them. Now, she says that Catholics were the first to utilize ley lines, but the Mormons perfected it, as they had a way to find where these ley lines were and build their stone temples with running water to effectively harness their energy for whatever they're planning. Now, if you thought that this so far was a bunch of rambly nonsense, Illuminism in the Ozarks was by far the longest, but the one without the most new information. She mainly wants to talk about a man named Albert Pike, who probably could have gotten a video all on his own, but this video is already long enough as it is. He was king of the Freemasons and allegedly planned 3 world wars, according to Norma COX, but that third one is still looming over our heads. He also sold his soul to Satan and talks about the Rockefellers, which I thought was supposed to be smoke and mirrors, Norma. Why are you now talking about the Rockefellers in this pamphlet, or have you changed your mind? Something else you learn from this is that Lucifer, remember Lucifer and Satan, not the same person. Lucifer, son of the sun, is the sun god, aka Amun-Ra, aka Helios, aka Apollo, and what makes him special is that he may have come from Ares, the god of war, and possibly, in ancient times, also ruled over Lemuria, which is the home of the lizard people for the uninitiated. She talks about the Francis idea of a hopeless, helpless, conquered race of people who will all blend together and make one stupid, super manipulatable race, as well as Catholicism, Zionism, and Islam are a triangle of 3 opposing forces which are constantly held in a tripartite grip over the planet. Also, being completely unoriginal, throws in that communism is derived by the Freemasons, which is a new one, but not unheard of. This is where I had to write in my notes overall plan, because she puts in the New World Order overall plan type thing, which that's the reason why I was a little less enthused to read this one. I stopped and started multiple times. I said, this is just normal, oh, TNO, the New World Order, lizard people. It kind of lost the whole uniqueness of what Norma COX had going on. You know, Hollow Earth, super being, aliens, religion, control the world type deal is pretty cool, but then when you start saying, oh yeah, Lucifer, you know, the guy, the son of the sun, he actually ruled over the continent of lizard people and is also the sun god, right? Like, yeah, tie it into the lizard people. The lizard people are still here. She'll talk about Atlantis later, but she also talks about the Illuminati. This is her, another thing that made me angry about this is her talking about the things she specifically said. Don't talk about these things. These things are the easiest way to get caught up and tricked by the super beings below the earth who control all of world's religions. She's now talking about how the Illuminati is funded to be service to the false religion of the sun god, aka the people who hold the religion of light, and how Albert Pike built the Freemasons. I mean, I thought this was a trick, Norma, right? I've already fallen into the trap of wars are human sacrifice and occultism is meant to trap the ambitious. Whoops. I mean, what am I supposed to say? I mean, Albert Pike is some great Freemason who actually is able to contact Amun-Ra / Lucifer / Helios / Apollo, who lives in the Hollow Earth, and he's actually created the Freemasons to construct all of these things, to have yet another layer of obfuscation to the super beings who live in the Hollow Earth. And the reason why Israel has its current flag is because the Star of David is Solomon's seal, which is meant to seal the super beings in the earth, and Solomon can be read as Soul Man, which is also sun god, and then go as far to say like communism's pagan, since the Freemasons worship nature and communism is Mason derived. Therefore, communism is pagan, obviously. And she just starts throwing punches. She's like, all the wars are caused from the gods inside of the earth who created communism and socialism. And that's what the sun and the moon god are. The sun god is communism and the moon god is socialism, and they'll fight until the sun goes out. The sun is fake, guys. It's an artificially fired orb in the sky. All of these wars are pointless. The Mexican-American War was pointless. The Native Americans know the entrance to the Hollow Earth, and Andrew Jackson, who allowed the Federal Reserve to take over the United States, and Albert Pike both took super high interest in Native Americans because they all know where the entrance to the Hollow Earth is. The guy who founded Texas, right? That's the next logical step. Sam Houston, a man who fell into power and was deposited when he wouldn't serve his conspiracy. The Native Americans told him where the Hollow Earth was. It's beneath the Ozarks in Morning Star, Arkansas. It's almost like the reason she moved to Northern Star, Arkansas was because she wanted to do more experimenting with the Hollow Earth. Earth. She fell in love with the place, right? And then didn't you want to talk about the Knights of the Golden Circle, my favorite silly occultist organization made by racists? A bunch of people got together and said, yeah, the United States should totally create the Empire of the Golden Circle. When the Confederacy secedes, we should actually annex Mexico all the way down to Guatemala and take all of these plantation lands and form this Golden Circle and take Cuba. And since it's gold, remember, gold is a reference to the sun god, which is Illuminism, which equals Freemasonry, right? And it doesn't stop there. Remember when I mentioned the Empire of the Golden Circle? Norma COX talks about that too. She says there's 200 Aryan Indians in a city called the Star God City in Guatemala. And she says that the Native Americans are like the Vistani from Curse of Strahd. They can enter and leave Agartha as many times as they want just because they know all the ways into the Hollow Earth. They know the way out of the fog. They know how to leave this world of Barovia, right? She loves the Confederates. And then in the end, she just has to prove that she is not irredeemable, but just lost in the sauce, because then I get stuck on something that I didn't even know I wanted to, because she talks about Confederate gold, which is another big thing that I would love to do a video on, because I would love for it to be real. I would love to just go searching for some gold stash that some person left millions and millions of years ago, as if the Confederacy wasn't only like 200 years ago or so. It's not like some ancient thing. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'd love to go hunt for treasure, and I don't care if the guy who left it here was a racist, I just want the money. And also she ends it off with just saying that the US government has entered into a treaty with the Agarthan aliens and super beings. I mean, why not? I mean, why not just extend the conspiracy to everything? Just say everyone who isn't me is controlled by... Oh, Norma COX is the leashed Francis E. deck, right? Francis E. deck is everyone is against me, there's no one who can help me, I am completely alone, and I must control everything. Now, Norma, living in an age where she's more connected, can find people like her, and now say, well, it's a small minority of people who actually know the truth, but the majority of people are deceived. I'm sorry. I understand that this is a bunch of unhinged raving. So if you made it all the way through and you want to see more, I tried to go back to the old style and it certainly feels a lot better. It feels good to lose it again. Get all tingly. My hands are shaking. Oh, it's so good. But I put a lot of effort into these videos, and considering the new YouTube guidelines, which I already made a post about, I'd like you to like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot, and I read all your comments, and I'm gonna tell you that this person probably knows what the next video is gonna be about, because they suggested it. So if you want to see a name like theirs pasted up here with as much reverence as I have for them, because I have to do requests as I get so few of them, leave a comment with a request and what I could do to improve. I always appreciate criticism more than anything else, and if you appreciate these esoteric writings of an occultist grandma, there's far more of them to be found. So, in conclusion, if you find a kook, send them $20 and they will go to the dollar store and buy you $20 worth of stuff. It's like a gift box with no taxes.